Welcome back to Ask Allison. Today I'm joined by Kim Wheeler-Poitevien. Kim's been doing one-on-ones with us for years. If you want to hop into a one-on-one with her, then hit the link in the show notes if you're listening on the pod, or you can get in touch with me on social and I will send you a link. Here is today's question. I'm trying to be more efficient in my practice, but I keep hearing mixed messages about using AI for things like notes, summaries, or admin tasks. Part of me sees how much time it could save, and another part of me worries I'm crossing an ethical line or risking client trust without realizing it. I don't want to cut corners or do anything that could jeopardize confidentiality or my license. Is it ethical to use AI for notes or admin? And how do I think about this responsibly? I love that they're asking instead of just going for it or not going for it. Like, let's explore, y'all. Before we answer, then I'd love to thank our sponsor, Therapy Notes. I've talked about them for years, know their features by heart, but what truly sets them apart is that they genuinely care about your experience. It's not just about troubleshooting. They actively implement user-suggested features like therapy search, secure messaging, and their AI Notes feature Therapy Fuel, which will not impact our discussion of this either way. Everybody at Therapy Notes believes in the product and they want you to love it too. Plus, they're independently owned, which means no venture capital and no pressure to prioritize investors over customers. And this independence allows them to keep their prices fair, to focus on innovation, and to prioritize customer experience. With over 100,000 therapists already on board, they've proven that you don't have to compromise success for quality. If you're ready to see for yourself, try Therapy Notes free for 2 months with the code ABUNDANT at therapynotes.com. All right. What are your thoughts, Kim?
Oh my goodness. I'm kind of 50-50 on it. I have to
Mhm,
do full disclosure that
mhm,
I do use AI to draft up um, my canned responses to stuff.
mhm, mhm.
So I definitely use it for admin tasks here and there. And then, but I'm also I feel really guilty about the water usage.
Mhm.
So I kind of think about that. Um, but I look at that, but I also have researched a lot of the AI note takers or the ones that you can use in session. And I look at like a lot of, I'm in, a couple of Facebook groups and, with therapists, and everyone has like their discussions about them and how comfortable they feel. I think that it's one of those where I'm not really sure about where it's going to go.
Mhm.
I know that, for some therapists, especially when you get behind, it can be extremely helpful because it's like helping you to kind of get through and to get all your notes done. The other thing would be is that the concern for actually the note taking and actually listening during a session. Um,
Mhm.
for me, I don't necessarily feel comfortable with that, so I don't do that particular thing. But I definitely see the benefit in if you are writing a particular note that doesn't have a lot of identifying information and you're writing a kind of basic note that you can, kind of write that out. And I think that it's really helpful for neurodivergent therapists who really
Mhm.
kind of need that template each time. And it really helps you to keep you on task and to keep you from kind of getting backed up. Um,
Mhm.
so it definitely has been helpful. You can kind of see that it's like, wow, this is life changing. But on the other hand, I do kind of have that thing of like, um, how much information is kind of being heard when you're in a session. And that sometimes will a client actually understand uh, if they're being recorded, that this isn't just your personal recording. This
Mhm.
is that it's AI and that where it's at actually going to. And do you
Right.
actually own that and where is that going? I think that's a little bit of difference between you actually recording the session yourself and then playing it back
Mhm.
so that you can write it. So that would be my only hesitation about the actual systems that you use, like that you're actually listening to, they're listening in on the session and then they're dictating and creating the note after.
Mhm.
That's probably where I kind of get a little dicey with it, but those are my thoughts.
Yeah, yeah. I took a really good AI ethics course through
Yeah,
Person-Centered Tech that I would
yeah,
recommend to anybody.
yeah.
I cannot summarize it because it was like 4 hours long. But I will say, like, they did not touch on the environmental impact, and that is a real thing that I want to acknowledge. That's not what this person is asking about, so I want to hit the
Mm-hmm.
parts that they talked about, which is like crossing an ethical line. and client trust. And I think one of the things from that ethics course is like, you absolutely need to make sure your clients know that you're using AI if you're using AI.
Mhm.
And so making sure that it's in your informed consent. Some of the AI companies for notes have like their own informed consent. So it's a whole separate thing that they have to acknowledge. And I think that that's the way to go about it and to verbally communicate it as well.
Yeah.
Just like I always tell y'all to talk about your cancellation and no-show policy out loud, even though they sign, but nobody reads that stuff. So let's be good stewards of ethics and say the stuff out loud and give them the option to back out. There are a couple different ways to do notes. One where you type in or dictate kind of what happened, and then the AI will make it into a nice, concise note, or for it to listen like you were talking about. And the major AI note takers do like they're HIPAA compliant. They keep that
Mhm.
information safe and secure. Um, but I think a lot of the concern that therapists have is like, are we then training AI on how to do therapy? Um, I'm not afraid of AI taking our jobs. Like we all learned in
Yeah.
grad school, it's the relationship. And I know anytime I've used ChatGPT for anything, it's basically like, you're the most brilliant thing in the world. Like it never pushes back in the way that in therapy we help
Yeah.
people grow.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a, yeah, I do agree with you in that people do have this concern about if they're farming for information to learn. Um, and I think you're absolutely right about the fact that like and I do have clients that like kind of then end up using like AI, for something. But yeah, you're right. It doesn't come back to you and it doesn't hold you accountable. It doesn't do any of
Mhm.
those particular things. Um, but I think that if they do take up the course on it, I think that it may make them feel like a little bit more comfortable.
Mhm.
But I think the other thing would be actually, getting the consent. But I think that the bigger thing is whether or not the clients are actually going to consent to it.
Mhm.
And then really, really being comfortable with it
Yeah.
is like really the bigger thing.
Absolutely. And they talk about like jeopardizing their license. Don't use Chat GPT for anything at all that's client related. Like a canned response to an email, sure, as long as it's like the same thing you send to multiple people.
Mhm.
But one of the things in that continuing ed that I did was basically like there is no like everything's PHI, right? So when you're putting in AI, none of that is secure, none of it is protected. So don't try to write your notes with Chat GPT because it's not secure, whereas the notes platforms from AI are. Um, so yeah, and I think we have a podcast that aired a couple of months ago where somebody like Melissa Hall went way in depth about what she has learned through these companies because she's somebody who loves this techie stuff.
Yeah,
So I think it's good to educate yourself and to consider, especially for our neurodivergent students, like
yeah.
it's so helpful for them. Because notes is, I think most of us would say, like staying on top of our notes is the least pleasurable part of our jobs.
Mhm.
So, yeah, amazing. Well, thank you, Kim.
Yeah.
And I will see you guys next week.